The word remission can mean lots of things to lots of different people, and you can be in remission and things return. So it's never, I've never ever thought for a second that this disease may never return again. But to be told I was in remission, and the fact that my blood had completely been completely cleared up from the disease, I mean, it's a feeling you can't describe, because it had never happened before after 2 or 3 attempts. So I woke up one morning and I had a pain in my buttock, just around here, which is kind of strange. I didn't really think much to it, but actually I was struggling to walk. It was really hurting. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to go and register with a doctor, which, again, being a 27-year-old bloke, I hadn't got round to doing, because we'd just arrived in Sydney and we were having too much fun. You hear the word leukemia and you just assume you're going to die, frankly. That's what I thought. I'd never had anything wrong with me, ever. And for someone to say that word to you, when you're not expecting it, you are just shell-shocked. There's no other word for it. They had to take my spleen out to diagnose what I had, but also it was shot to pieces, frankly. The spleen is a filter for the blood when you become an adult, it was finished. it was a useless organ as far as my body was concerned. Now, the fact I knew what I had, suddenly I and people around me switch into the doing mode. You can actually do something about this now. There's nothing worse than not knowing, because you can't really do anything about it, and I'm very much a sort of doing sort of a person. So I had chemotherapy planned in for, I forget, it was maybe about 8 weeks, something like that. And again, incredibly lucky, because chemotherapy, there's many different types of drug. The one that I was given, a drug called cladribine, is relatively mild when it comes to side effects. So I went into the hospital on a Monday morning. Wonderful nurses. I literally, was wired up to the drip, and I sat there for a couple of hours. I looked out the window. I thought a lot about life, and then I drove back to work. Australia do things in a particular way, and the UK do things in a particular way. And plus, I think there was also a school of thought that said, look, if we give Mark this continuous burst for a week rather than spreading it, maybe it'll have a different effect on me. Drugs affect different people in different ways. So I went through that, and again, got a kind of all clear, but we're going to keep watching you. So my son was born in November of 2003. And I think it was about a month before he was born, I got the letter again, which, as timing goes, it wasn't great. So I was very fortunate to land on this trial. There's only a few of us in the country who went through it at that particular time. And the trial was a combination of drugs, on the hope that 1 + 1 would equal 3. So it was a combination of cladribine, which what I'd previously been having, alongside another type of drug which is not chemotherapy, called monoclonal antibodies. The biggest risk was anaphylactic shock. So one by one, after this drug's been administered, they start to sort of walk off in no particular order, and my dinner arrives, and you think, is everything okay? Yeah, it's okay. And eventually I said, look, what's the chances of something happening? So after about 15 minutes, typically it's okay. And fortunately it was okay. If you haven't, for whatever reason, been leading a full life, and maybe it will have changed you mentally from that perspective, and maybe it will just inspire you a little bit to go, okay, well look, this isn't a rehearsal. We're not on this planet for long. Once the disease has been dealt with, maybe think of some ways that you can learn from that experience, or take advantage of that experience, and do some different and new things with your life that perhaps you hadn't been doing before. It's hard to think about that when you're going through it, but as you come out of it, I think it's a great thing to reflect on.